Hello, everybody. I see everyone filling in. We're just going to give all of our attendees a few extra minutes to join before we kick off. So we'll begin in just a minute or two. So feel free to drop any comments or questions in the chat box, and we'll get started in a minute or two. See a few more people. Just give everybody just another minute or two, and we will begin shortly. Great, we're going to get things kicked off. So hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live webinar, Why AI-Based Dynamic Pricing Solutions for Food and Beverage, Maintaining Profitable Growth in Volatile Market Conditions. I'm Matt with PriceFx, the industry's leading cloud-native price optimization and management solution. Joining us today is our valued partner, Dankin Solutions, who has a dedicated practice that focuses on incentives, rebates, chargebacks, and trade promotion area, as well as configure price, quote solutions in the pricing space. If you're interested in a PDF version of today's presentations with speaker notes, feel free to contact me after, as well as it being available via our website. Additionally, there are some information sheets on Dankin Solutions, so make sure you get your hands on those. Please feel free to share any comments or questions in the chat box on the right, and we'll answer those at the end with a 15-minute Q&A section. So let's get things started. I'm going to pass it over to Tim Su to start with an intro on himself, as well as to give a high-level overview on Dankin.
Hi, good morning, Matt. And hi, everyone. My name is Tim Su. I'm a senior project manager at Dankin Solutions. And my background includes deployment and management of enterprise IT solutions, including SAP implementations, trade promotion solutions, business intelligence, and business warehousing. I'm currently working with a large food and beverage client of Dankin Solutions and have been with them for the past 6 years, doing a lot of their M&A IT integration projects. Okay, so a little bit about Dankin Solutions. We are established in 2010 with our headquarters in Irvine, California, heaven on earth, as I like to call it, and international offices in Hyderabad, Guntur, and New Delhi in India. We are an IT consulting firm that offers IT services and solutions in some of the highest demand areas of enterprise IT. You can see some of our partners and logos below. We have more than 100 plus organizations that we are very proud to call customers. And we have 300 plus associates whom we endearingly call Dankinites because they are dynamite. Our associate retention rate is 95% and repeat business rate as of today is 93%. So you could say our employees and customers love us. Our average Dankinite has about 10.5 years of experience in the field, or as I like to call this KPI, experience per capita. In the bottom, you can see that we are partners with some of the largest enterprise IT firms, as I mentioned, and we have been recognized as one of the 5,000 fastest growing private companies in America for the past 4 years by Inc. magazine. Now, handing it back to Tim Shorter to introduce himself and his organization, PriceFx.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking the time this morning on a Monday morning. We tried to squeeze this in ahead of the upcoming holiday weekend, so hope everybody's got big plans wherever you are. I know Under the circumstances, a little difficult. Just a quick about PriceFx. Who is PriceFx? Well, we're really a focused group of passionate pricing enthusiasts and experts in software technologists. We truly believe we are the next gen holistic pricing platform offering 100% turnkey cloud solution. And we operate globally with, we're a leader in the industry and serve customers of every size. So we deal with customers that are multi-billion down to small mid-market companies. And these aren't just the buzzwords or taglines for our company. These were foundational words to the key principles of our company: fast, flexible, and friendly. Fast is, we offer the pricing platform that is the fastest to implement, the most flexible in terms of matching your customer, your business needs in configuration, and then really just from a commercial perspective of working with us, we have a core belief in we need to make it easy for the customer. So that's about PriceFx. Just a second about me. I have been in this industry for about 22 years. I started my career in food and bev with M&M Mars, worked in trade promotion and supply chain management for M&M Mars for about 4 years before getting into the technology space. And since then, I've been focused 100% really in digital transformation with food and bev manufacturers focused on pricing optimization, supply chain optimization, trade promotion management, and business intelligence, and all really with the goal of helping companies just like yours manage and realize better margin achievement. So that's enough of the commercial. So in case you missed the goal of the webinar today, we want to talk about some of the common challenges food and bev manufacturers have in pricing practices that contribute to margin erosion. Discuss some of the current landscape and critical, capability requirements for manufacturers now and in the future in light of the current economic downturn and what that means, and then really provide some counter tactics of how manufacturers can identify practices and processes that contribute to margin erosion, helps stabilize and reduce margin erosion, and then ideas to future-proof their business and avoid contribution to profit leakage. So we thought we'd have just a little bit of interaction here today. I know this is, not in terms of interaction where everybody's speaking, but we thought we'd open up with a poll question. And we really just have 3 poll questions we're going to intersperse in the presentation, just to get a good sense of where everybody's at and what everybody's thinking. So Matt,
launching that right now. So if our attendees can now respond to the question, do you feel like you understand the basic concepts of machine learning and AI? And feel free to respond truthfully. Not everyone has a great understanding. This will just be for us. So I'll give everybody about 30 seconds to submit their answers, and then we'll share those results right after. Great. I'll give everybody just a few more seconds. What's that?
Need the Jeopardy theme music in the background, I guess.
Yeah, I know. That would be really nice. Kind of get everyone. All right, I see quite a good. I'm going to close the poll right now. Let's share those results. So only 25% said, yes, I use those concepts in my daily work, which is great. 25% saying, yes, I have great working knowledge of the basic concepts. Awesome. And then 42%, the bigger majority, saying I have a vague sense of what they mean. And then 8%, no, not at all. So hopefully after today's presentation, we'll kind of boost that 50% up.
Awesome.
And then back over to you.
That's good. That gives us a kind of good benchmark where everybody's at. So I can get the screen to advance here. So let's talk about a little bit about, we have spent a lot of years focused on food and bev manufacturers, and one thing we see very consistently and routinely is that manufacturers really face a lot of challenges on really doing a comprehensive job of managing customer product profitability. And largely it's it's problematic because the reliance of the systems, processes that they use, but static pricing strategies and practices are kind of at the core. They're further exacerbated by siloed systems that really manage, the entire critical cost components of the price waterfall, and then just the lack of data intelligence and the ability to respond in real time to changing market conditions. Something obviously that is of key importance in the last few months. During the economic downturn, a variety of manufacturers are experiencing dramatic shifts in retail products, with volume either shooting through the roof or going through the floor, depending, challenging, the forecasts to deal with. We've seen a big shift in obviously the away from home or food service ingredients dramatically being reduced. This situation is further complicated by manufacturers' ability to be responsive to these volatile conditions and challenging them in shifts in raw material costs, market demand, excess inventory, and other financial implications. And the reality is revenue and margin erosion are just very prevalent and quite frankly difficult to overcome. Emerging from the economic downturn and beyond, manufacturers, in order for them to remain profitable and outpace competition, are just going to have to get more efficient and effective in pricing processes. They'll need to better insulate themselves from wildly fluctuating market conditions with better agile pricing practices and solutions that can help manage the cost and price with better precision, while helping maintain margins and identify opportunities of growth, even if just incremental. I think in many cases, a lot of us are feeling like our friend here, we're kind of simply exhausted. All of us want this COVID crisis to be behind us and never reminded of it again. But, it's a good lesson about resiliency for us, I think. But the reality is we're kind of all stocked up of full of bad news and kind of exhausted, I think. The reality is, it also occurs that it's not business as usual. Market conditions have changed, and they will probably be in a state of flux for quite some time. God knows when things will kind of restabilize. But in reality, pricing is hard. Even the best companies struggle. And why is it? Pricing is complex. It's a complex topic. It requires a lot of cross-functional collaboration between marketing, sales, finance, R&D. And companies often really don't even know what good looks like. Often the value of products and services to customers is really not well understood. Pricing kind of just happens rather than being designed. Pricing linkage is hidden, and often when higher prices may have been successful, but few tools and systems supporting the pricing, and those tools often are used very inconsistently. Suffice it to say, there's a lot of multiple, challenges of getting the level of solid proficiency. Unfortunately, the majority of food manufacturers face continued challenges like we lump them into three categories or three buckets. One, the lack of agility. What do we mean by that? Well, poor visibility into true cost drivers, including trade spend, promotions, etc. The lack of agility in shifts in demand requiring agile pricing strategies when things, market conditions change, etc. The slow response to market changes and limited time offers is just an example. The second category is the need to reduce margin leakage. And, really three categories of three bullets around that is helping quoting customers and negotiating more effectively for our sales teams, capturing cost to serve, including layers of complex trade spend, accurately managing to net margin. And the third category is really there's just too much overhead in the process, and manufacturers need to do more with less. I have never, well, maybe never is a stretch, but I rarely ever read a food and bev manufacturer 10K filing for those publicly traded companies where the CEO or the board is not focused around cost reduction and margin improvement, right? You're always going to find that in a 10K filing as an organizational goal, amongst other things. But you know, reducing overhead we need to make, you know, pricing easier and complex pricing easier. Eliminate friction from the quoting process and the negotiation, and then reduce overhead by managing, you know, claims and settlement easier. We just, to understand some of the challenges, I think if everybody's familiar with a price waterfall analysis, if you know, you look at this entire gross to net, you know, from the price build of the list price all the way through adding margin and focused on adding the margin, you know, doing the best job it can do to try to figure out what that target price is for a customer, along with the promotional and discounting activities, and then along with, you know, managing all of the process downward of the to net margin. There's a lot of complex components that go into managing the entire price waterfall. You know, the list price process or the price build process is typically done by a separate group, and that is either done, you know, very manually. The same thing goes with, you know, trying to establish target margins and discounting, and then the whole claims process, and then really having visibility across the waterfall during all these activities is very difficult. The reality is there's not a seamless execution in 360-degree view. Why is that? Well, we know that the price build process is typically either done in Excel and then uploaded into ERP, or done in a combination of ERP and Excel. The quoting process or contracting process, whatever type of organization you are, is really typically done by cost plus type of pricing models, you know, with some guardrails, but not necessarily used consistently, and either done in Excel or trade promotion, or sometimes in CRM. You know, trade management, you know, promotions, discounting, rebate programs, etc., are either done in a TPM system, sometimes in ERP, and oftentimes in Excel. And then all the claims process and the management of that is done in a variety of those systems as well. And these are all independent, you know, processes and systems. And then there's really no support of this, you know, holistic view from the time of, you know, price build all the way across the waterfall to understand what net margin looks like. There's no ability to do scenario modeling to understand, you know, when we take a price increase or costs go up, or we do a different discount, or we try to go for a different margin attainment, you know, what happens to net margin and the impact to sales volume, etc. And it's really because there's not an entirely seamlessly integrated process, and it's disconnected from the sales process. You know, again, all of these systems are not tied together. So, you know, ideally, this entire process is orchestrated through a single platform, or, you know, right through your CRM. On complicating matters, we are going through obviously a very, you know, turbulent time. In the foreseeable future, you know, that's going to be the reality. We've already seen this in our own lives in terms of the shift to, you know, online sales. So more e-commerce. You know, if you're not set up to manage e-commerce, you know, through whether it be Alibaba, Amazon, your own sales, you know, online sales, etc. I mean, that further complicates things. The different product configurations, we've seen this in food service, and then having to respond to, you know, utilizing different product configurations. You know, obviously very volatile market forecasts, supply chain interruptions, continued operator volatility, and depending on the parts of the country you're in, it could be even worse, or you know, certainly not great. And then it's just going to hamper, the ability to grow profitably. And I think sometimes the best, manufacturers will be able to do is simply achieve minimal incremental gains or flat growth, quite honestly. And other times success might be just limiting the amount of margin loss. So one thing is really clear to us, and again, this is not just Denkin Solutions and PriceFx opinion. This is from manufacturers across the board, is that old systems and processes aren't going to help you improve the situation now or in the future, and you're going to just need a new set of capabilities. I hope somebody else is a NASA buff out there and appreciates the new capability slide from NASA perspective. I thought this was very appropriate. But it'll really require a lot of companies to overhaul their practices of the way that they've always done business. It's going to require an overhaul of the processes in terms of both the current inflexible business process and the systems that support them. And I think it'll require new capabilities to leverage good data, and which is in part systems, but also in the way that data is collected and utilized. And I think, again, the whole SpaceX program is really analogous to, we really had to rethink the entire space program and how we went about business if we were ever going to continue to have, NASA, right? So at this point, we wanted to interject another poll question and just check the pulse of everybody. Matt, I think you're going to open up another poll.
Yeah, absolutely. Launching that right now. Has your company given thought to better support decision making to improve profitability? Give everybody about another 30 seconds or so to answer, and then we'll share those results.
Can you whistle the Jeopardy theme, Matt?
I'm not sure I can whistle that good. I'll practice on that for the next one, though.
Okay.
I promise. I'll give everybody just a few more seconds before I close this poll. Great. I'm going to close it now and share those results. So overwhelmingly positive yes, 88% going yes, and then 13% saying no. So hopefully after today's presentation, that 13% will jump on the other side of that.
Good deal. Okay, well, thank you for participating and indulging us here. If we're really being transparent, I think often the simple facts are that we can all be stuck in our comfort zone, kind of the way that we've always done business. And the reality is, I think this is a good time. I know I've had to do this in my personal life over the last 3 months, kind of do an assessment. What needs to change? What do we need to do differently, moving forward? And I think businesses have certainly had to do that, and it's a part of, a good, healthy thing to do. And this might be one of those opportunities to really do a critical assessment and really take a hard look about, how the company performs pricing today across the entire price waterfall, and understand whether that's, very efficient or ineffective or not, and where there's opportunities to take deliberate steps to change. I think this is a good segue to talk a little deeper about, where that evaluation, where do we evaluate those components of how we do pricing? And I think there's really 4 components of pricing to look at. So if you'll indulge me, I'll just use a food service example for a moment. It's really about the right foundation. And if you have the wrong ingredients, poor quality ingredients, the end meal doesn't taste so good, right? The analogy in pricing is getting the foundation right. And fundamentally, your pricing will be affected by how your entire company works together. I think oftentimes, the pricing team does their job, sales does their job, marketing does their job, etc., very independently and not necessarily in seamless coordination. Continuing with the food service analogy, if you will, the second ingredient in food service operation is the meal prep. I mean, we know how important that is. It's all in the prep, getting the recipes and menu right. The analogy here is really the price setting, and it's about your list price or reference price that should be communicating relative value and setting target prices or net prices for your customers and product combinations. I think a lot of companies spend a lot of time focused on the end price without really understanding what great looks like in terms of the price setting process. What mechanisms and how are they using, what tools are they using to really establish the right cost, the right, layer of incremental step up or adders to get to that list price and optimize, in many cases, list price. The third step in a successful food service operation is the presentation of the food, right? It's got to look attractive and so it commands a higher price and drives upsell opportunity. And I think in pricing, this might be similar to getting the commercial policy right. And we see this across the board. It doesn't matter what industry that we're working with. Certainly is prevalent in food and bev, but the consistency of what discounts and rebates that you allow for different types of customers. Lots of different inconsistencies in that. The payment terms. Do you give similar payment terms to the similar types of customers? Do you offer incentives to different customers and indirect customers to help drive pull-through sales? And what are the appropriate guardrails that you set for your sales teams and what they operate under? And we see just a lot of deviation from even established norms within a manufacturer environment from the sales perspective. Those aren't followed very consistently. And finally, the fourth and the final step in execution is delivering food at a consistent quality and service day in, day out. And price execution in large organizations is very similar. It doesn't really matter what size organization. I think it just gets further complicated the larger your company is, and the more customers, more products that you carry. But a company can have the best ingredients and great menus, food prep, beautiful delivery, but if the execution is inconsistent, it's just really has a big impact. It can be disastrous. And I think this is one big challenge for a lot of companies. So I think at this point, I'll hand it off to Tim Su, who's going to provide just one case study where pricing, when impacted by the lack of coordinated data around trade spend, is just, again, one portion of the key component of the price waterfall, can dramatically either be improved or leave an organization with big deficiencies. So with that, Tim, I think I'm going to pass it off to you here.
Thank you. And Tim Su again with Duncan Solutions. And I'd like to share with you a case study on a recent implementation project at a large food and beverage company and some of our key learnings from that project. A little bit about this project. This project was an, as I say, M&A integration project where we deployed a trade promotion solution and integrated its data within the enterprise analytics solution. Think claims, think bill back, think all the promotions that are set up within the trade promotion solution. And we then utilize it for machine learning applications. And of course, in a M&A integration project, a trade solution is not the only solution being deployed. There are many other areas, notably the various ERP implementation modules, CRM implementation, and etc. But the learnings are quite similar from the context of its integration within the enterprise analytics solution for machine learning applications. Okay. So the first key learning on what we needed to do well is know your data. So I saw that in the poll, about 25% of the audience here use machine learning concepts daily, and the other 25% understand the concepts pretty well. So you would know that if you've taken a data science class or course by Simply Learn, Udacity, Coursera, DataCamp, and so on, or taken a master's in data science, typically data sets are provided to you with clear labels, and all you have to do is figure out which machine learning model to apply, right? You can apply like a linear regression model or k-nearest neighbors, all these different machine learning models to be applied or instructed by the course instructor to apply for a given data set. But in real life, for corporate applications, you likely need to figure out where to get these data sets. And the answer to that, especially when it comes to internal data within your organization, like sales, product attributes, product hierarchy, customer groupings, customer attributes, customer segments, margins, all these data is within your analytic solutions, well, presumably. So for this customer, all that data is already in their analytic solution. So for this M&A integration project, we knew that it's super critical to know your data. During our integration project, we call our data dictionary the data Bible, because everyone just rallied around it. We spent a lot of time on it. The dictionary is super important for us to update and understand all the field definition. What does this field mean? And then we could take that definition and then update the front-end data querying tool, such as SAP Business Objects, or if you use Power BI, we can then update it so that if you guys are familiar with SAP Business Objects, you can hover over a field and the definition just pops up, and you know if you're using the right field for the right purpose. So one funny story, when we were trying to build our data relationship diagram to understand which data to pull from which system into the data warehouse, we knew we needed customer group. So we looked into our systems. We all gathered as a functional lead of various solutions. And the CRM team, Salesforce, has a customer group. ERP, SAP has multiple customer groups at the sales area level, at the general level, and I, leading the trade promotion management solution, also has customer grouping for grouping customers for easy promotion creation. So we then went back to the business teams using these tools and generating the data and asked them, how do you use all these different customer groups within all these different solutions? What are they used for? Then we learned in Salesforce, they use it to group customers by their GPO, group purchasing organization, or their food service management firm. In SAP, they use this other customer group 6 field for direct to identify if a customer is a direct customer that purchased directly from us or an indirect customer that purchases through a distributor. We use customer group 3 for customer authorized brands because to have all these marketing guardrails, certain customers can only purchase certain brands. We have pricing groups, customer segments, whether it's university, military, lodging, etc. So with all these definitions, we then take it and update what we call the data Bible. And that was really critical later on for reporting and serving as an input or training data set for machine learning applications. So that's the first key learning. You really have to know your data. And a good analytic solution is really the backbone to a good machine learning within your enterprise. The second key learning, and this is more, I guess, from a technical perspective, is for us to deploy data crumbs. I've included this as a key learning because I've seen so many data integrity issues where you query one system and another and you get different results. And it's so important because the business needs to trust the data, to use the data, to turn the data into insights, and as one of my client CEOs like to say, to weaponize the data, to use it to win market share. And nothing destroys confidence like repeated data integrity issues. So what I mean by data crumbs is the ability to trace data back from the receiver back to the sender. So in our project, the approved bill backs will be aggregated and sent to the ERP system multiple times a day. And we can use a particular field within our ERP system to trace back to make sure that none of the bill backs goes missing as it gets transmitted over to our ERP system. And again, this point may be more for a technical audience, but the key message is your data is traveling through multiple solutions, and you need to make sure nothing goes missing and be able to trace back. And lastly, if you do these things well, what are some of the capabilities you can enjoy? So firstly, is that you can use analytics to analyze and report on margins by margin category and by different customer or product attributes. This is akin to the price waterfall graph that Mr. Tim Shorter showed earlier. So with all these transaction data history, product attributes, cost data in your analytics system, you can also bring in external data such as competitors' pricing, competitors' promotions, customer reviews, and other pertinent macroeconomic variables to use that to train your machine learning model for price optimization or also for dynamic pricing if that works for you. I know for one of my clients or one of Duncan's clients, sometimes it could be really hard to implement dynamic pricing because they only have certain windows to change their price. You could still use machine learning to determine or to optimize the price for that particular pricing window that you have maybe twice a year. And secondly, you could use machine learning to predict which customers have a higher opportunity for sales to allow for prioritization for the field sales team and kind of push a report to them weekly within their CRM solution, assuming they have like a iPad with them. This allows the probability of winning a new customer as they go out in the field to be optimized. And with every customer you win, that increases your ability to gain market share within the field. So that's another application that our business users use machine learning for with all these data that's been aggregated. Lastly, we also use machine learning to improve cross-selling of products by identifying customers that have a higher potential to buy certain types of products that they aren't currently buying. You know, since you have all the sales data and you have all these customer attributes that I mentioned, all the customer groupings internally that you have been warehousing, you can use your sales history, your customer location, and all these customer attributes like the customer segment data that I was mentioning, and determine the potential to cross-sell your other products, maybe your coffee creamer, your teas, to a coffee-only customer that belongs to a certain customer segment. So those are some of the capabilities that I saw from the customer that we've been working with. And that's all for me today. I'll yield the floor back to Mr. Tim Shorter.
All right, hey, thanks, Tim. Appreciate the great learnings from your customer profile there. See if I can get this to advance. So in the home stretch, everybody, we'll kind of wrap up with some recommendations here. I think, you know, one of the things that we've learned by conducting a bunch of different surveys from manufacturers, not just in food and bev, and I think it's important for, you know, different manufacturers to look outside their industry for best practices and the things that have really impacted for the positive, for, you know, to their business, but across a broad spectrum of industries, some of the key takeaways and the big steps to gain better profitability. As I mentioned, there are three primary buckets. First is the manufacturers need to improve agility and responsiveness. So, you know, what does that mean? really there's three aspects of improving agility and responsiveness. Quickly and intelligently respond to market changes while honoring customer contracts. I think one of the biggest things that, of course, in food service we saw over the last few months was obviously a huge decline in volume. And if you had responsive systems both on the costing side or on the demand side that could at least have eased pricing down versus doing big wide discounting to try to move potentially perishable product would be very, very key. Setting optimized pricing that sales will trust. This is always a challenge, but it's that sales will trust. Using real-time market data, I think, is another key aspect of that agility and responsiveness. And really uncovering margin opportunities with a complete view of the product and customer pricing and profitability is key. Secondly, it should really focus on eliminating areas of margin leakage. And we tend to look at three things: arming sales with optimized pricing guidance and competitive intelligence when quoting, providing a holistic view of net cost and profitability when quoting. It goes all the way back to the price build and understanding the components of cost. And then implementing price guardrails with smart governance and automated approvals for price deviations. Really eliminating, again, the friction out of the buying process and making it easy for customers to do business with you and make it easy for your sellers to sell. And lastly, really, manufacturers really should focus on reducing overhead and risk, both from process and systems, in really streamlining and accelerating the order taking by automated quoting and negotiation approvals. This is going to be even more imperative from an e-commerce perspective and being able to have that be self-managed. Execute mass price updates with less manpower while improving the accuracy and speed. We have seen, time and time again, those 4 decimal points matter in a lot of commodity type businesses. And when there's keying errors and things like that that happen, there's really not a lot of checks and balances to ensure that the pricing is set from the beginning from both a cost perspective or price perspective. And then reducing the complexity of the overhead, requiring the management of the ship and debit claims process is another area, trying to automate as much of that as possible. So this is a little dramatic theme there, but I mean, the reality is, if I could just ask, what if you could improve pricing agility, boost profit margins while also reducing cumbersome risk process? I mean, what's the value of that to your organization? And I think a lot of companies are having to figure out that it's time for pricing to kind of look at going from the back office to the strategic imperative. And I'll just say, as somebody who's been in the pricing space for the last 10 years, that the food and beverage industry is probably one of the lagging industries in terms of making this a strategic imperative. And I think it's the nature of the roots of most food and bev manufacturing, either where it came from out of farming, or close to the farms. And we have very conservative approaches to technology and realizing that technology can have a big impact on our business. So let me just summarize the webinar here in terms of the recommendations, and I think these are probably the key takeaways. Is the start by assessing your pricing processes and practices is probably a great place to start. I think it generally requires some third-party support or assistance to do it right, so that you have a second opinion, if you will, or a fresh perspective of people that are outside of your industry. And I'm not pointing that back to us, it's just a recommendation. Focus on, number 2, focus on improving business agility and responsiveness. 3, eliminate margin leakage. And don't try to boil the ocean in this, but just go after the most important buckets of margin erosion. And I think there's somewhere in between with that price build, setting the right customer targets, optimizing the price points and targets that include, things like discounting and promotion allowances as well. And then finally, decrease overhead and risk from the process. And obviously these take deliberate steps in process change to really improve things. With that, I think we're going to do one more polling question. If you can indulge, just one more polling question, and we'll share all this at the end of the session as well.
Great, yeah, thank you, Tim. So given everything you just heard, where do you feel AI will best be applied within your organization's function? HR, sales and marketing, supply chain management, manufacturing, and finance. I could see, it being in a number of these, but given your specific sector, where do you see, or your organization, sorry, where do you see this being the best use? I'll give everybody about 15 more seconds.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, it looks like heavily on the sales and marketing side. Yeah, it's still increasing. I see people still submitting their votes, so I'll give everybody just a few more seconds. All right, let's close the poll and share the results. So overwhelmingly on the sales and marketing side, 22 with 67%, 22% thinking supply chain management and manufacturing, 11% finance, and 0% towards HR. Just some great results. Thank you for those that answered.
That's awesome. That's helpful and insightful to us as well, to target our, really where we should be focused as well. So, well, listen, everybody, thank you guys for attending the session this morning. I know it's a Monday morning sometimes. For some of you, it might be early Monday morning, but we hope this was at least informative and provide some at least ideas of how to better manage profitability, and considering what's going on in the economy is going to be challenging for a period of time. But I think at this point, we'd like to open it up for the Q&A session and see if anybody has any questions, thoughts, or ideas that they want to share with the group. And honestly, this is, time for us to learn as well. So love to be collaborative here.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. So there's a question as well as a chat box on the right. So for our attendees, if you have any questions for either Tim Shorter or Tim Su, feel free to drop those in now and we can get those answered. Otherwise, we can wrap up. I'll give everybody just a few minutes to see if there's any questions submitted. Otherwise, we'll give everyone back their time. I guess you guys did such a great job. Yeah, looks like you covered everything.
Fantastic barbecue ideas for 4th of July, other than burgers and dogs. I mean,
yeah, feel free to submit burger recipes as well too.
I mean, that was kind of my theme of the burger theme today. So
yeah,
I guess what we're making this weekend.
Absolutely. Well, it doesn't look like anyone has any questions, but if you do have them in the future, feel free to reach out to me or Tim Shorter after the presentation recording sent to you, as well as, if you're looking for a demo or deeper discovery with Dankin, feel free to reach out to Tim Su or Lisa, Lisa at dankinsolutions.com. Just to discuss, any integration or business case frameworks that will support your investments, feel free to reach out to Dankin. So I just want to thank everyone. Ooh, it does look like we just had a question submitted right at the end. So I'll give both Tims a second to answer. How do you recommend to do the change management on the use of this advanced analytics tool?
Great question. One we get all the time. So I think this is my opinion. I think, again, that's what I alluded to, where I think it's best to enlist the help of a third party that knows how to go through deliberate change management and has a lot of practice with change management. And that can come in a variety of different forms. I mean, certainly we do provide a part of every implementation change management that goes along with how we support our customers, and then ongoing to that. I mean, I think a lot of times though, to do that, we really recommend companies do kind of a pricing maturity model evaluation. And that's something that we're starting to implement, but across the board, I think it requires some fresh perspective, somebody who's done it. Oftentimes, if you're trying to do change management within companies, we see this time in, time out, and everybody has experienced this in their career where you have a failed implementation, and largely because it gets to the user and the user adoption is just not there. And that's the worst case scenario, I think, is, there's two. One, not having very good data at all is always a challenge, but, to spend and do a big investment and then not have user adoption is typically indicative and points right back to the change management. So I think getting outside help and counsel in that, and that doesn't have to be expensive, but certainly should be, I think, you enlist someone else that knows how to do that and how to do change management is key.
Yeah, this is Tim Su of Duncan Solutions. Just to add on with that, like I mentioned, the project that I was working on was an M&A integration project where we introduced a lot of new solutions to business users that have been very familiar with their ways of working with their legacy tools. So in terms of change management, some of the key things, number one is communication to help the audience understand the benefits of what you're trying to do. So if they are all aligned on seeing what the benefits are for a given solution deployment, and it could be because we already, because this is the system that we have the best support, and we have a team around that, we cannot deploy this other solution because we wouldn't have to implement a whole new training for our IT teams. So communicating that support and the benefits is number one, the most important thing. And after that, clear documentation of the process. What are some of the process changes from your day-to-day working experience? You used to go to this screen. Now this is the new system. This is a new screen, new icons that you have to click on. So clear documentation of process changes and training would be key to the change management process for business users to accept and adopt this new solution that you're deploying. That's all from my end.
Great, thank you, Tim Su and Tim Shorter for very in-depth answers. Let's see, we got a bunch of thank yous on that. I'll give it another minute just before I am a little too premature with closing it to see if there's any additional questions anyone would like either Tim Su or Tim Shorter to ask before we wrap it up. This would be a great time to submit those, so feel free to ask those questions before we wrap everything up.
I mean, the last comment I would make, Matt, and for the group is, obviously we live in this world day in, day out. We see the benefit realization from our customers in terms of improving the pricing process and practices, and then, supported by technology. And the reality is, because it's so complex, there's so many moving parts, it requires, kind of a fresh approach. But the benefits are, completely outweigh the headache and the investment of going through that process and investing. And I think, there was a great survey that was done by the University of Miami's business school, one of their doctors of economic studies there, and they did a survey of 100 companies, of 100 largest global companies, and found that during the last economic downturn, those companies that invested in technology, especially digital transformation type projects, outpaced their competition 2 to 1 at post recovery. So it seems counterintuitive to go spend money during an economic downturn, but oftentimes this is the time to really do it. I don't know if that was a shameless plug or not, but it's just simply, whether it's pricing or something else, I think it's, it's a good opportunity to do it.
Great comment, and yeah, and it's just, I saw an interesting question before, like what's driving your digital transformation? It was like the CEO, the CMO, or COVID-19. So yeah, to that point, that's really good idea. We do have another question, and this is for Tim Shorter. Can you provide some examples or an overview of how AI is leveraged as a standard offering within the PriceFx product?
Yeah, absolutely. So now let me use you're gonna get me excited here about using a word picture here. Matt, I don't know if I can steal back screen. I'm gonna go back up to the price waterfall example, because I think this is a really good place to look at this. So traditionally, AI in the pricing space looks at, I'm gonna get my pen out here, looks at how to segment customers and optimize the segmentation of customers and products and distinguish them into small groupings of commonality around the buying behavior, which in the generic sense is called willingness to pay. In the retail environment, it's called the price elasticity of the consumer, right? So there's been years of using data science and regression, regression analysis combined with software to automate that and to segment customers. That's one area where that's being used very, very effectively and has been for 30+ years. The unique thing about what we do and can offer inside of our standard offering in PriceFx is we do focus on this. We can also focus on list price optimization, but we can also focus on any aspect of the price waterfall to achieve our optimal margin attainment. And what I mean by that is to say, if we're looking at what we should be optimizing in terms of any component of the waterfall, we use data science to help achieve what that recommendation should be to meet the objective of net margin while maintaining the right boundaries and guardrails across the waterfall. That's a new capability that's not really, there's nobody else doing that in the marketplace today. And so, often we get customers that say, well, gosh, in the old version of optimization, you could optimize just your target or margin price. What about my discounting? Can you recommend to me how much of a discount I should be providing versus just tell me what the guardrails of my total allowance of discount are? And I think that's not a nuanced difference. That's a dramatic, key differentiator in that for us to be able to provide a recommendation around how much discount you should be providing, or any of, against the components of the waterfall are truly things that kind of set the PriceFx platform apart. Hope that answered the question. If not, please, we can, I don't know, can we open it up to live Q&A? Yeah.
Yeah, so no, the person did respond, thank you, just want to keep it anonymous, but yeah, absolutely, they said thank you, so I hope that did answer their question. And yeah, so if there is any more Q&As, we have about 2 more minutes. And like I said, if you do have any additional questions after, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be sending some outbound emails with a recording of this session, so you can always visit back or pass that along to one of your colleagues. So yeah, with that, give me 1 minute.
Sorry, Matt, but happy to have any live conversation. Anybody wants to call me direct, I'm 24/7, so.
I love it. Fast, flexible, and friendly service from Tim Shorter. So with that, I just want to thank everyone for coming, and I hope you saw value in this presentation. And thank you so much, Duncan, for being a part of our presentation today. Hopefully, we look forward to having them again. And if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me after the webinar. And thank you again, everybody, for joining. Have a great day and be safe.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.